Hello and welcome everyone to the Australasian College of Road Safety webinar today on the 2024 Excellence in Road Safety Award nominations. It's a very exciting day to have this here with all of these fantastic projects collected in one place. And we'll hear a little bit about each of them in turn. It's going to be a busy webinar because we do have a lot of speakers. So we will try really hard to keep everyone to time so that then there's a little bit of time left for questions at the end. Excuse me. I would like to start by acknowledging and paying respects to the many First Nations of Australia who continue to be the sovereign custodians of their countries and the sovereignty of the Maori in New Zealand. We acknowledge the ongoing traditional custodians of the lands on which we live, work and learn, and pay our respects to elders who've passed on the legacy of knowledge and culture to the future generations. May this sharing of knowledge through Mataranga Maori and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ways of knowing, being and doing guide you with wisdom and courage as it enhances our collective futures. And I know we have over 100 people joining us today from all over the world. And so I also acknowledge First Nations peoples from all over the world and the overrepresentation of them in road safety statistics. So first we will start with a word from our sponsor who we have for this award, Compono. It's the first year that we've had this Excellence in Road Safety Award, and we're very fortunate to have Compono sponsoring this for us. So Todd, over to you.
Great, thank you. I think first of all, would like to just say that we're very proud to sponsor the award and want to congratulate all the finalists for their incredible submissions. Really looking forward to hearing more. But I'll give a little bit of a recap about ourselves, just to introduce ourselves. The next slide. So Compono Certified Skills Platform is a purpose-built learning and assessment tool for driver and rider education. We first partnered with Queensland to transition away from in-person knowledge testing to be the very first online knowledge test in Australia. And during COVID-19, as everyone would have experienced, government service delivery was impacted and people were literally picketing centres around Australia for licensing purposes. And we stepped in, working with agencies such as Vic Roads and a number of other jurisdictions to transition their testing online and get through the backlogs of hundreds of thousands of learner drivers. Today, we now work with 5 states in Australia and have a best-in-class driver and rider learning testing platform. Next slide. That platform provides outcomes and better experiences. So we've had over 2.5 million driver and rider enrollments to date, and that continues to grow. We've saved millions of dollars for jurisdictions by shifting out of resource-intensive service centre-based testing facilities. And along that way, we've delivered not only a better experience for learners with an average course rating of 4.65 out of 5 across 4 courses, but also better accessibility and support, specifically for those with learning difficulties and also from different cultural backgrounds with services such as text-to-speech and multilingual. Next slide. But our, I guess, secret sauce is that we don't just shift learning and testing online. We create a flywheel effect to continually improve the outcome. So we start with creating engaging courses that focus on uplifting understanding, not just rote learning. And then we use the platform to make sure that test items are psychometrically validated in a real-time basis. Updates can be delivered and make sure that that aligns with the outcomes trying to be delivered. This in turn provides better data and allows us to drive effective policy decisions, such as recently in South Australia, where our platform's been used to also deliver the ultra high performance vehicle license. Thank you for your time. Looking forward to seeing you all at the conference.
Thank you, Todd. So we will jump right into the first of the project presentations now, from David Beck at Transurban, a project on using connected vehicle data to monitor driver behaviour along roadwork sites. Thank you, David.
Yeah, thanks very much. So the submission that we did here is focused on challenge that we had in that we're doing a widening of the M7, which is a motorway that runs along the western side of Sydney for 26 kilometres, and we're adding an extra lane in each direction, so from 2 to 3 lanes in each direction. So for an extended period of time of about 2 years, we're reducing the speed limit from 100 to 80 kilometres an hour throughout. And obviously the traffic conditions are going to change throughout. So what we wanted to do was really closely monitor how the traffic responds to the changed environment and understand their level of compliance as well to inform any countermeasures that we can do. So what we did is we have a really good relationship with Compass IT that uses connected vehicle data from 64 different OEMs and gets billions of data points every day. So it gives us really good insights about vehicle traveling speed and also any G-forces throughout that gives an indication of if there's any harsh braking or swerving that might indicate an underlying issue there. And so we use the Compass IoT API and build our own purpose-built dashboard that maps out the entire area where the roadworks are being done. And that allows us to take away really useful insights about speed compliance and how that varies by time of day and by location. And that can inform interventions such as visible police presence or mobile or permanent speed cameras or speed activated messaging as well. It also gives us insights about where there might be harsh swerving going on or other more dangerous behaviors. Maybe drivers get a bit aggravated by the changed traffic environment, and that can also inform any interventions that we might want to have to keep everyone traveling safe. Yeah, this has been really useful. In the submission, we were looking, the question was asked about what alternative would there have been, and there's really no great alternative for monitoring traffic at such an intricate level over an extended time and over such an extended period. So I find that this is a really useful way of monitoring an extended location over an extended time period, and we've actually adapted that for many other locations as well. Yeah, so really happy about it, and I'll be presenting about some of the insights at the conference as well. So hopefully I'll see some of you there. Thank you.
Great, thank you, David. So next we will have Julie Brown from the George Institute for Global Health speaking about a project for user-driven solutions to reduce incorrect use of child restraint systems. Thanks, Julie.
Okay, thanks, Ingrid. So what I'd like to do in the next 3 minutes is just to give you a brief overview of the project that we nominated, which aimed to improve the correct use of child restraints through better instructional materials. So we began this work by recognising the need for clearer, more effective instructions for using child restraints. And we approached this using a user-driven method that we adopted from gold standard health communication practices. So this involved reviewing instructional design literature, conducting a task analysis, and engaging with users through focus groups to produce some prototype instructional materials. But the core of the user-driven process involves testing and refining prototype materials to ensure that they truly work. So we conducted several rounds of user testing where participants installed child restraints and used child mannequins to simulate real-life scenarios. And we continued this until 90% of users could correctly perform and understand the tasks 90% of the time. And it took 4 rounds of testing and refinements to achieve this. We then moved on to evaluation. So firstly, we conducted a small laboratory-based randomised trial where 44 participants were either given our new materials or the standard manufacturer's instructions. And we found that those who used our materials were 30% more likely to correctly install the restraints, and their comprehension was significantly higher. But these results were achieved in a controlled environment, and we really needed to see how these materials performed in the real world. So we then conducted a field-based trial, which was funded by the NH and MRC, with 427 families who were purchasing child restraints. And we followed them up 6 months later and found that the families who received our materials were almost 90% more likely to use the restraints correctly than those who only received the standard instructions. So the final stage of our work focused on translating these findings into broader practice. So we worked closely with child restraint manufacturers to draft guidelines for effectively communicating correct use, and these formed the basis for new requirements in the Australian New Zealand standard for child restraints. So in summary, this project has shown us that by integrating users into the design of instructional materials for child restraints, we found a new way to effectively and efficiently improve the correct use of child restraints. And this will ultimately reach every child under 7 travelling in cars in Australia. And by improving correct use of restraints, this will ultimately reduce the risk of death and serious injury among children in crashes. Thanks, Ingrid.
Thank you, Julie. So next we have Max Bushell from the Western Australian Local Government Association with a project on LG STARS, safety rating tools for local government road networks. Thank you, Max.
Thanks very much. Did the slide change over? Ah, there we go. So look, I'm Max Bushell. I'm a senior policy advisor, road safety and infrastructure at the Western Australian Local Government Association, and was the project manager that worked on the development of this LG STARS tool. We did this project with support from the Commonwealth Government through a Road Safety Innovation Fund grant. And we also worked with the University of Western Australia, Western Australian Centre for Road Safety Research to do this work. And look, our initial intent was to either create or adapt an existing tool to support the assessment of safety on local government roads, ideally using a simple, clear and effective methodology. Just a brief note on local government. Their needs are often slightly different than state governments in terms of safety assessing the road network. So we wanted to really tailor it specifically to the local government context and make it specific to local governments in WA, where many of the roads are unsealed. So to do this project, we did a literature review, we did extensive consultation, and we landed on an approach where we would use the IRAP methodology, their star ratings methodology, to create the tool. And essentially what we came up with was a cross-section based tool whereby you choose the road type, note the conditions, find the relevant cross-section, assign a safety rating, and then at the end of that process, it spits out a certain suite of improvements you could consider, and then provides an Excel spreadsheet at the end that you can integrate into your works programming, and also will support any safety benchmarking. So we used that initial paper-based tool, did a pilot project with local governments, made some improvements, ended up also developing an app, and ultimately this project should really give a good sense to local governments of the safety of their entire network. It should provide relatively easy to understand outputs, both to elected members and to officers. And really the key for this tool and kind of in contrast to a few of the other tools is that we weren't looking at crashes, we were looking essentially just at the facility itself. So getting us a more proactive approach for local governments. Look, it's a bit more simple than many of the other tools out there, but it still requires some time on the local government's part. And thus far, we've seen quite good uptake of the tool. Approximately 7,200 kilometers of roads have been analyzed in WA, so it is working, and we're continuing to work with local governments. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. So next we have Nigel Coates from the City of Launceston with a project on a Launceston speed limit review. Thank you, Nigel.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you the Launceston Speed Limit Review, a project which I was involved in throughout its 10 years of evolution. And yes, it took us 10 years from initially coming up with the concept of reviewing our speed limits on the road network in Launceston, and finally last October actually making changes to 5 sections of arterial road, from reducing the speed limit from 60 to 50, and also around our Launceston CBD and 2 suburban shopping areas, reducing the speed limit from 50 to 40. The reason it took 10 years was a number of hiccups we had, a number of challenges, things like police support for new speed limits, which they saw as them needing to be the ones that enforce those speed limits. And obviously through political changes, organisational changes, we maintain the vision of what we're seeking to do in terms of reducing these speed limits, and finally got them implemented last October. The other change which happened was that 2 of the roads through the centre of Launceston transferred from local government to state control in that time, but the state government was still okay for us to progress the speed limit changes on those roads. We selected the arterial roads based on crash data, but also on exposure as well. So numbers of crashes per million vehicles and numbers of crashes per million vehicle kilometres, and also looking at the speed limits that were travelled on those roads. So the emphasis was to really set the posted speed limits at a more appropriate level based on the speeds that traffic was actually travelling at. And by doing that, really just trying to put the case that it was setting more appropriate speed limits rather than trying to artificially get speeds down on those roads. So it demonstrated that perseverance. What we did before we implemented the changes to speed limits, we did some pre-implementation public engagement. We found that actually over half the respondents understood what we were seeking to achieve, particularly in the activity centres. A little bit less so on the arterial roads. Some thought we shouldn't be reducing the speed limit because it was seen as reducing the capacity on those roads as well, which obviously we weren't seeking to do. Now the crash records in Launceston this year so far are looking really positive. Now, I don't think we can put that down to the speed limit reductions, but the crash records up until the middle of the year are showing about an 18% reduction, which is really pleasing to see. Hopefully that will continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nigel. And this is brilliant. Everyone's keeping to time so wonderfully. So keep the questions coming into the Q&A and we will try and get through as many of them as we can at the end. So next we have Philip Devon from Northern Beaches Council with a project on the Northern Beaches Council e-bike campaign. Thank you, Philip.
Thank you, Ingrid. We had a issue with, e-bikes, and 5 years ago it was, delivery riders. Now it's a lot of younger age groups, pre-license holders using them. What we found was that the demographic that we were trying to target didn't have a lot of exposure to the road rules. So my road safety team went out with a research piece initially to drive appropriate messaging. What we found was that a lot of the kids thought they were doing the right thing. They're riding the large roadie bikes, that style of e-bike, 2 or 3 up, a couple of surfboards maybe, along the shared path and footpath network. We did some background research in 2023. The average age of the riders that we were targeting were 14 to 16 in the age group. A lot of them were in the Manly precinct, which is the other presentation I'm doing. They were riding around the 25 to 40 kilometres an hour in the 30k speed limit zone. So shared path, probably not ideal given the number of pedestrians in that area. The intent was to provide a safer environment for both the riders of the e-bikes, but also the pedestrians. We've got a large issue with ageing population. A lot of the older residents don't feel safe with the kids zipping around on the e-bikes. What we've done is establish a code. We went out pre-Christmas last year with some targeted media for parents and bike shops, and then post-Christmas we've gone out with a much broader advertising campaign Messaging, the photo there shows an operation that my road safety team did in Manly with the Highway Patrol, Northern Sydney sector officers, where initially they were just going out and advising those riders that were breaking the rules on, appropriate behaviour, what sort of things that they could be infringed on. One of the key things that I noticed after this program is that where you'd ride around normally and see a lot of people without helmets on, just about everyone had a helmet, just purely and simply because they were now aware that the police may be out there. The police didn't have to be there, but a lot of the general duties crews were also starting to police what they deemed as unsafe behaviour. I think that was the end of that one.
Great, thank you. And Philip does have another one as well on the installation of reduced speed zone in Manly, 30 kilometres per hour for high pedestrian activity zone. Thank you, Phil.
Okay, so this one, Ingrid, it became evident that during COVID that there were a lot more people out walking around Manly. Bit of background on Manly, obviously, plays host to about 3 million visitors a year, both locally and internationally. The area of the speed zone is that area that's wedged between the Pacific Ocean, Sydney Harbour National Park, and the high density residential area around the town centre. When we went out and did the initial implementation in partnership with Transport for New South Wales, we actually did it counter to the normal process. So instead of going out and saying, okay, we're going to put in all this infrastructure and then see if we can get a speed zone change, we went out and we did the speed zone change up front. In this area, there'd been 19 pedestrian-related accidents prior to the change. Post the change, there'd been 2. We then went back in and looked at the speeds again. We'd driven the speeds down below 40, but it wasn't close enough to 30 to call it a success. So in partnership with Transport for New South Wales, we put in some infrastructure. It was mainly raised pedestrian crossings, line marking, lane narrowing, that sort of thing. What we found was when you went in and put in all the signage that was required for a speed zone of this type, people weren't looking at it. So we had to come up with an innovative treatment. We went down the road of colour coding speed zone patching and did some education with the community around that as well, and progressively reduced the regulatory signage. And we found that the speed of vehicles travelling generally in the precinct was getting a lot closer to 30k target speed limit. I think we've got 4 more devices left to put in the program, but we've sort of delayed those around other projects that are happening within the area. What we found was that initially, there's a lot of community pushback on this one because, along the beachfront, for instance, it was going to take you an extra 90 seconds to get from one end to the other. And believe it or not, that was an argument that was raised. When you actually try and drive it, you couldn't do 30 because of pedestrians crossing the road. Like, it's really high pedestrian activity area. What some of the community said was, oh yeah, you're going to delay us getting out of the area. Strangely enough, a lot of those residents that were originally pushing back on it now want it in their streets because they see the safety benefits, to the point where now we're looking at doing the rest of that interface area between the current zone and Sydney Harbour National Park as another 30k precinct. One of the, is that the 2.5 minutes or the 3 minutes, Ingrid?
2.5.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that we looked at, and this project was done at the same time another Sydney council did a 30k zone. Theirs had speed cameras, ours didn't. I think, talking to Transport for New South Wales, one of the reasons the trial in Liverpool CBD fell over was because people saw it as a speed zone change, whereas we pitched this to the community as a pedestrian safety project that resulted in lowering a speed limit. And it's a minor difference in the way it was sold, but the community jumped on board with it because they saw the safety benefits rather than, it was designed to raise revenue, which the other trial was accused of.
Great. Thank you,
Yeah,
Phil.
okay, thanks for that.
Fantastic. Thank you. So next we will hear from Lauren Cooney from RACQ on a project Blooms for Blokes. Thank you, Lauren.
Hello, everyone. I've used Nikki's link to log in, so I think it might still come up as Nikki Hayden. So Blooms for Blokes is a road safety campaign we came up with, which is centered on the idea that the first time most men receive flowers is at their funeral. And when it comes to Queensland, sadly, too many funerals are from men dying on our roads. When we looked at the Department of Transport and Main Roads data, men are consistently 3 times more likely to die on Queensland roads compared to females. And that's something we decided we want to change. These were the thoughts that drove RACQ's Blooms for Blokes campaign, which was launched during Queensland Road Safety last year. In Queen Street Mall, which is our busy mall precinct here in Brisbane, one of our vintage patrols was surrounded by 995 flowers to represent the number of men who had been killed on Queensland roads in the previous 5 years. The community, they were invited to take a flower and sign a card and give it to a man in their life while they're still alive and motivate them to drive safely. For those who weren't in Brisbane, who we couldn't interact with directly, we had a dedicated landing page on our website, which was promoted heavily through socials, which allowed people to send a virtual card and flower to their loved ones to spark that really important conversation about road safety. Blooms for Blokes is a campaign that can be echoed across the country and globe because sadly, this disproportionate male road toll isn't something that's happening just here in Queensland. It's happening right across the world, and we've seen other countries really focus road safety campaigns on the disproportionate male road toll. So we've since had activations on the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast at Christmas time, and it was just yesterday that we were back in Queen Street Mall doing the same activation because it's Road Safety Week up here this week. So we've got a little video in this slide, which is a taste of the campaign, which was rejigged for Fatality Free Friday. If you wouldn't mind please playing that.
Between January and April this year, 70 men died on Queensland roads. That's almost triple the number of women. This Fatality Free Friday, give a bloke in your life a bloom and tell him why it's important to you he stays safe on our roads.
I'm going to give my flower to my husband, Peter. He is my love since I was 21.
My father, he's definitely the, most important male figure in my life.
I'm going to give it to my son because he spends his days in the car driving for work.
A simple chat could save his life today, tomorrow, and every day.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Next,
Thank
we will
you.
hear from Martha Jabor from the Homicide Victims Support Group on a project of Road Trauma Support New South Wales. Thank you, Martha.
Thank you, Ingrid. Today, I'm really proud to talk about the work of the Road Trauma Support Group in New South Wales. It was founded in 2021 by family members who had, unfortunately, very sadly, lost family members to road crashes that were unexpected, violent, and have caused many a ripple effect. When the families got together, it was a case of what they needed was support and counselling and advocacy. And for a lot of the family members, it was simply, how do I get out of bed every morning and survive the loss of someone that I love, to an act that could have been prevented. So with those family members getting together, we formed a committee which filled up quite quickly with people needing to be a part of the road trauma support group, members of the New South Wales Police Force, who have guided us and the group in moving forward insofar as what can we do as a group, as a collective group and a partnership to help these families. So within 48 hours of a road crash occurring where someone has died due to a criminal act, the New South Wales Police Force will send Road Trauma Support Group counsellors a notification form, and from that we form a relationship with the family who has been thrust into a life that will be very different to the life they had before their loved one was killed. So we work very closely with Transport New South Wales, and Road Trauma Support Group is very appreciative of the fact that the group is funded by Transport New South Wales, and of course Homicide Victims Support Group, which is the organisation that I've run for 31 years, and are auspicing in the Road Trauma Support Group at this point in time. So one of the most important things is, of course, that Road Trauma Support Group offers a robust support network, which includes counselling for family members. Very often that counselling and that support, both emotional, psychological, is pretty much right from a crime scene, especially if we get that notification from police that quickly. We have support group meetings on a monthly basis. There are regular support counselling sessions where we bring people together, whether it be online or in person, to meet with other family members, and they can only tell and say to each other, I know how you feel, I know what the journey's going to look like, and they give each other so much support and encouragement that they will survive this horror that they're living in. We do home visits. We've got a regional outreach program, goes out into country New South Wales supporting families, a telephone support line. And of course, as the slide shows, we do a lot of education, community events and seminars. We want to see how as a group we can prevent some of these deaths from occurring. So we do a lot of education targeting young drivers, especially in schools, and of course the research and advocacy. And I always say the most important people when doing research is listening to the family members, because they are the experts of what is going wrong in the system that's got them to the point that they're at. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martha. Next, we have Alex Yannick from ACRS with a project Heads Up, addressing distracted driving using AI. Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, Ingrid. I'm Managing Director and founder of ACRS. We're an Australian publicly listed road safety enforcement technology company. So I'm here to talk about the advanced enforcement camera technology that is now deployed in over half of the Australian states and territories. So this technology was first introduced in 2020 in New South Wales, and a global first, known as enforcement cameras to detect drivers using their mobile phones while they're behind the wheel. Obviously, at that time, a large unaddressed source of road trauma. The cameras are deployed in fixed sites like conventional speed enforcement or red light enforcement cameras, but they're also very significantly deployed via trailers. And most of the programs have a heavy trailer emphasis for that anywhere, anytime level of enforcement. So the trailers can be moved around the road networks, and they typically move right across the various states in which we operate. And a trailer will typically be deployed for about 3 or 4 days at a site before being moved on to a new site. And pleasingly, what we can see is that the driver behaviours really change. And we can see that in 2 different ways. One is that we can see localized behaviour change around that site while the device is there, but also we can see the general behaviour change across the road network. So if you look at localized behaviour change, when you put one of these trailers there, you'll start off on the first day with a base level of offending behaviour. Let's say 0.3% of drivers will be using a mobile phone these days in an enforced jurisdiction. In an unenforced one, that will be 1 to 2% of drivers actively using a mobile phone. So on that first day, you see 0.3%, and that will drop by about 10% each day until the trailer is then moved onto another site, typically. But also pleasingly, you can see over time the general shift in driver behaviours, which is we can turn up to a brand new site that's never been enforced before, and we can see that those sites over time have less and less drivers found identified using their mobile phones. So the whole road network is getting safer as a result of these campaigns that organisations like Transport New South Wales or Queensland Department of Transport Main Roads conduct. So when you think about traffic enforcement, before this solution came along, only 1 in the 5 of the fatal 5 was being addressed with sort of advanced technological enforcement. Now we're at 3 out of the fatal 5 in seatbelt, mobile phone, and speeding. So from one of these assets, you can deploy that, and we can both enhance the amount of deterrence effect on the road network, but also save the government's quite a lot of money in combining like mobile speed camera programs with mobile phone and seatbelt enforcement programs. And so West Australia should show us soon how that can be done, doing all of it and introducing average speed, mobile average speed at the same time, which will be a good introduction for the rest of the country.
Great, thank you very much, Alex. Next, we have Helen Lindner from MACA on a project, a whole-of-system approach to improving safe road use for children and young people with disability as passengers in motor vehicles. Thank you, Helen.
Thanks, Ingrid, and hello to everyone online today. This project, funded by the Australian Government Department of Social Services, is being implemented in response to research in 2019 showing that in the previous 2 decades, there have been little improvement in the transport of children with disabilities and medical conditions, constituting an ongoing road safety problem. The project applies a whole-of-system social model approach to advance the rights of Australian children and young people with disability and medical conditions to safe and equitable transport. Children and families have been at the centre of all activities, with MACA working with diverse sectors, including transport, health, education, disability, industry and academia. The project has also been supported by very generous in-kind contributions from Neuroscience Research, Australia Transurban Road Safety Centre, Britax Childcare, and many other individuals who've contributed their time. The project's been evaluated, implemented by Curtin University, including a baseline evaluation in 2020 and a follow-up evaluation in 2023. This included a national survey to understand the knowledge, experiences and perceptions of allied health professionals, parents and organisations about the transport of children with disabilities and medical conditions. The key priority areas, as you can see on the slide for the project, are building capacity and capability of those responsible for supporting children's transport needs, strengthening policies and systems, advancing knowledge and driving innovation. So some of those examples would include that we have developed the first national website for Australia. We have developed 3 training courses to date. Our allied health professional training course has been attended by over 700 allied health professionals throughout Australia. So you can see how we're rapidly building that knowledge and capacity and capability of those key people who work with families and children. Strengthening policies and systems. We've had changes in laws in the ACT, Queensland, South Australia, the Northern Territory in a very short period of time, often around really complex issues or issues that present significant barriers to access to safe transport. And we will be included in the upcoming review of the Australian road rules to ensure that our Australian road rules actually provide protection for the rights of children with disabilities to safe transport. We also are seeing the findings from our follow-up evaluation, with the preliminary data being analysed, significant decreases in health professionals' reports of not having access to training and support, almost 80% decrease in health professionals' reports of difficulty navigating the system, and a decrease in wait times for families in accessing products. So our approach, we can see through our follow-up survey, is having an impact in improving and advancing children's rights to safe transport. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Helen. Now we have Kate McDougall from the Eurobodalla Shire Council on the Kings Highway Road Safety Partnership. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Ingrid, and thank you for everybody being online here. Kings Highway Road Safety Partnership's main focus is the saving and preserving lives in the 140-kilometre stretch of road between Canberra and the Batemans Bay on the coast. This nomination focuses on the partnership that comprises of interstate, multi-agency, multi-jurisdictional partners coordinating road safety programs with members from the New South Wales and ACT Policing, the ACT Government, Transport for New South Wales, and New South Wales local governments of Queanbeyan and Pellarine Regional Council and Eurobodalla Shire Council. The partnership was established in 2008 in response to 107 crashes in 2007, including 2 fatalities, 51 injury crashes, and 52 non-casualty crashes. The year the partnership was established, 2008, saw an increase to 118 crashes, including 4 fatalities and 54 injury crashes. In 2012, the New South Wales Centre for Road Safety and Roads Maritime carried out a route safety review of 117 kilometres of the Kings Highway between the Princess Highway roundabout at Batemans Bay and the easternmost part of the ACT border just north of Bungendore. The Kings Highway Road Safety Review was finalised and released in March 2013. The report recommended that road safety outcomes would be best achieved by implementing a combination of engineering, behavioural and police enforcement programs. In the slide it shows the results of these combined engineering, behavioural and police enforcement programs, where the number of crashes reduced from 108 in 2013 to 34 in 2023. That's not quite a full year for 2023, hence the little asterisks, and that's a reduction of 68.5%, and the number of casualties from 88 to 26, a 70.4 reduction in 10 years. From 2013, the partnership had concentrated on behavioural programs during the peak summer holiday and Easter holiday periods, where the road is busiest, as Canberra folk escaped Canberra and the heat to the beach for their summer and Easter breaks. After reviewing previous year's data, speed and fatigue programs were identified as causal factors to road crashes, and new campaigns address these issues. In 2017 and 18, the police pushed to be more visible in these programs. The partnership refreshed the summer and Easter speed and fatigue campaign in 2017 and again in 2023 to keep it fresh for people to drive the roads. In 2024, the partnership introduced a heavy vehicle campaign during the May 2024 National Road Safety Week. The partnership has used various modes to promote the road safety campaigns. Initially, a launch, which is here showing on for the National Road Safety Week, pre-departure advertising in shopping malls and petrol stations and the Bureau of Meteorology site at one stage, messages during the trip on roadside banners, behind toilet doors and cafes. Oh, that's it?
Yes, but thank you so much, Kate.
Okay.
The next project that we are having is from Matthew McQuinn from the Mornington Peninsula Shire on safer speeds on rural roads. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Ingrid. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt McQuinn, Principal Transport Engineer at Mornington Peninsula Shire here in Victoria. I'll be discussing our safer speeds on rural road project, being a systemic approach to speed management. Despite the clear relationship between speed and road trauma, with it being one of the pillars of the safe system approach to road safety, shown in the top left corner of the slide, with speed limits able to influence vehicle speeds, significant implementation of appropriate speed limits has always been challenging. As of 2019, we had 33 rural roads with 90 or 100 km/h speed limits, many having significant crash history, including 32 deaths over the last 20 years. And high crash risk, including narrow lanes and large trees close to the road, where a simple mistake could easily result in death. With current road safety knowledge, we know that roads like the photo of the road on the left are suitable for 90 and 100 km/h, but not roads like the photo on the right. Our approach involved implementing 80 km/h speed limits across all 33 roads simultaneously in December 2019, rather than addressing them individually over 20 or 30 years. A map of the 33 roads is in the bottom left corner, and a photo from implementation on the right. Essentially, the project was on a systemic risk basis. We weren't concerned about which roads had the most crashes. We knew that all roads had a similar high risk, unacceptable road trauma as an aggregate, and 80 km/h is appropriate for these types of roads. In terms of outcomes, the evaluation showed community support with community sentiment survey done 1 year after implementation, showing nearly 3 times as many people supporting the 80km/h limits as those that didn't. In line with expectations, control-corrected average speeds dropped by 3.5 kilometres on former 90km/h and 5 km/h on former 100km/h roads, which is a great outcome given that a relatively small reduction in average vehicle speeds results in a disproportionately large decrease in road safety risk and road trauma. There's also now many more vehicles travelling 80km/h or less than there was before, which is what we were aiming for. There was larger speed reductions on of up to 10km/h on high volume roads and roads that had the highest vehicle speeds. Annual fatal and serious injury crashes reduced by 68%, which is a 20% net reduction when compared to control roads. A very positive outcome is that there hasn't been any fatalities on any of the 33 roads in the last 4.5 years since the 80km/h speed limits have been in place, despite a long history of deaths and 6 in 2019 alone. So it's been a great step towards making our roads safer. The success of the project has demonstrated that a systemic batch approach to speed limit changes can be achieved even with it not being the norm and can save lives in a cost-effective manner.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we have Emily Studley from the Department of State Growth in Tasmania on a project on Tasmanian Safe System Motorcycle Safety Audit Strategy. Thank you, Em.
Thanks, Ingrid. And I'd also like to thank the Australasian College of Road Safety for providing us the opportunity to talk about our projects that we've all been working on our road to 2030 and beyond. By working together, we've got the best chance of reaching our goals, and working together is a big component of the project I'll be talking about today. Today, I'll be introducing you to the Tasmanian Safe System Motorcycle Audit Strategy, a program aimed at enhancing road safety on popular motorcycle touring routes across Tasmania. Tasmania is a magnet for motorcycle enthusiasts from around the world, with riders taking advantage of our breathtaking scenery, winding roads, and ideal riding weather, although not this week, normally in the warmer months. So what's our problem? People who ride motorcycles continue to be overrepresented in fatal road crashes. Last year, 8 of our 36 fatalities in Tasmania were motorcycle riders, even though they only make up less than 5% of our registered vehicles. In Tasmania, rural roads pose significant risks to motorcycle riders, with a disproportionate number of fatalities and serious injuries occurring on these routes. So how are we addressing this issue? The Safe System strategy uses road safety audits to identify and prioritise low-risk, low-cost, corridor-wide infrastructure improvements to mitigate these risks. Each year, the Department of State Growth engages a qualified road safety auditor to undertake an audit on a popular touring route by analysing crash data, conducting speed assessments, using an instrumented motorcycle to capture on-road data, and engaging with stakeholders, including local communities and motorcycle groups. This collaborative approach ensures that the infrastructure treatments, such as improved advisory signage and safety barriers, are not only evidence-based, but also community-supported. The routes were identified using under a tourist road safety strategy and through consultation with motorcycle stakeholder groups. A risk assessment was then undertaken based on a 10-year crash history of those routes, and you can see them mapped on the bottom right of the screen. What sets this strategy apart is its comprehensive stakeholder engagement. Motorcycle riders are actively participate in audits, sharing insights and attending workshops. This inclusive process not only leverages local expertise, but also fosters community ownership of the road safety improvements. The workshops also provide an opportunity to provide road safety education to motorcycle riders and other key stakeholders, particularly in regards to safe system thinking. To date, audits have covered over 176 kilometres of popular routes, resulting in tangible road safety improvements, such as an additional 351 metres of new safety barriers with underrun protection. The infrastructure treatments are aimed at reducing crash risk and severity and improving legibility of the routes, which is crucial for reducing off-path crashes. The success of this strategy lies in its scalability. Built on the widely used evidence-based road safety audit framework, its model of stakeholder engagement can be easily adapted by other jurisdictions. To evaluate the program, the Department of State Growth conducts ongoing evaluations through community surveys and data analysis to ensure continuous refinement and adaptation to evolving road safety challenges. And over time, we will review the crash history of the touring routes to evaluate the efficacy of the program. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you in Tasmania at the conference in October.
Great, thank you very much. And lastly, we have Brett Williams from the City of Onkaparinga with a project on low cost and transferable rural junction active warning system, or ACRS Lite.
Thanks, Ingrid. Yeah, thank you. Lots of great projects today. This is awesome. So my one is a project that arose through a need to address an ongoing safety issue involving a high-speed rural crossroads junction with a significant history of crashes. So rural intersections involve perpendicular collisions at higher speeds and with slower driver reaction times due to the relaxed driving state. This significantly increases the potential for trauma. So previous attempts to improve safety, such as signage upgrades and widening to provide turn lanes, have not achieved the desired reduction in crashes. The most effective solutions, such as a roundabout or staggered arrangement, are generally out of reach for local government to prioritise and fund. However, my council received approval from the South Australian Department for Infrastructure and Transport to partner with the University of Adelaide's Centre for Automotive Safety Research and Sage Automation to design and implement a four-way junction version of a system that was previously trialled at T intersections. Furthermore, the Australian Government's Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Funding Scheme afforded us the opportunity for implementing a creative solution that wasn't reliant on benefit-cost ratios like black spot, which allowed us to proceed with the trial. So ACRS involves an intelligent warning system that detects when vehicles are approaching an intersection and then activates flashing warning lights installed to signs to improve awareness for drivers. The technology provides real-time information through an online portal, which has allowed council to monitor the performance of the system, including battery charge levels, vehicle counts, sign activations, and fault reporting. For us, the use of non-regulatory signs, solar power, and wireless communications reduces the upfront cost to around a third of the price of a full ACRS system, which usually has mains power and needs to have a very high level of reliability due to the use of enforceable variable speed limits. As we have since received separate funding from the South Australian Government to install a roundabout as an ultimate solution at this intersection, the ACRS equipment will soon be relocated to one of our other high-risk intersections, along with 4 additional sites that are also being treated with ACRS. So this project demonstrates what can be achieved when our council is proactive and willing to take risks on trialling innovative solutions. The support of our leadership and elected members has been vital. However, the project would not have been possible without the support of the Australian Government, who provided the funding, the South Australian Government, who suggested and approved the rollout of this technology, CASA, the Centre for Automotive Safety Research, whose involvement includes research, design and evaluation, along with producing a 50-page design guide to inform future deployment of this treatment in detail, potentially anywhere, not just South Australia. I also acknowledge the efforts of Sage Automation for their enthusiasm to commit towards developing and deploying this innovative technology, which carries an additional element of commercial risk. To meet Vision Zero targets, low-cost infrastructure solutions are vital to be able to deliver as many bang-for-buck treatments as possible, rather than building gold-plated expensive solutions at fewer sites. So this project is a vital example of low-cost innovation and has been demonstrated to be effective in the short time that has been active so far. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. And what an amazing array of projects we've heard from, and covering so many different aspects of road safety, which is fantastic. We have just a few minutes left for questions, and I have one here that I thought might just pose to any of the presenters that would like to have a say on this. It's from Blair Turner. He says, all of these projects show great success. However, they are generally local in their impact. How do we scale up and ensure greater implementation of these great interventions? So to anyone on the panel who'd be interested in speaking to that question.
Yeah, I'm happy just to say we need to have forums to discuss these sorts of things amongst practitioners, so we don't sit in our statewide bubbles or New Zealand and Australia. The local government network through the ACRS is a great platform for that. Yeah, but keen to hear anyone else's thoughts.
Yeah, just jump in if you've got.
I can go if you like. Yeah, I agree with Brett on that one, that something we've talked about as the local government network, is that not every local government or other road agency needs to reinvent the wheel on every project without knowing, about a project like Brett's RJAWS system. People may not think of it, not think it's possible, whatever it is, but knowing about it now through this forum and other things allows others to then talk to Brett about it and try and find out more information about it. But yeah, lots of different ways. Obviously, Blair, who asked the questions, doing some good work on an Austroads guide about speed management at the moment. So yeah, I think it's just a matter of communicating our projects and taking opportunities to document them, spread them widely, and all learn from each other on the path to zero.
Anyone else like to jump in on that? Upscaling these projects. Okay, one of the themes of a few of these projects as well was in terms of bringing the community along. And there were some very different approaches taken to that in some of the different projects, but with a common theme of the community recognising the benefits once the project is implemented. So what are some thoughts on how you can bring the community along with you in making some of these road safety changes? It's so important for getting political buy-in to be able to get these changes made. Who would like to speak to that?
Yeah, I think in terms of like our project with the motorcycle audit, it's having them involved early on and having them a part of the solution as well, so that they, at the other end of the project, they feel like they have a buy-in to whatever solution we put in place. So it helps getting that consultation early on in the piece.
Yeah, and I was going to suggest as well that, one of the key things through our projects is make sure that your executive and also the elected officials have buy-in from the start, so they own it. Whether they're supportive or not to start with is the main job that you've got to try and do to get a successful project up and running.
I'll just briefly add a slightly different perspective around things that are particularly challenging. In our case, speed limits, we did it a bit differently by necessity as much as anything else. We didn't have time to widely engage before implementing our 80k speed limits due to a deadline to have it in before our busy summer Christmas period. So our project was a 2-year trial, so it allowed people to get used to the idea without fearing that it's going to be in forever and a day, although that was our hope that it would be. And then do a community centre survey a year after it was implemented, rather than what we normally do with speed limits is ask people before they've had a chance to experience the change. So I found it with other projects in other areas of my work as well. Doing a trial can be an easier way to break it to people if you've got something that's particularly people may perceive as controversial, but also doing community sentiment work after the fact as part of that evaluation can sort of get a different perspective, rather than people sort of panicking or uproar sort of before a project's actually been implemented.
Anyone else got any thoughts on bringing the community along?
I have, Ingrid.
Yeah.
So we involved the community in ours as well, but in a slightly different way, in that we really embedded the community in developing the solution, rather than just simply consulting and bringing the community along with us on our solution. We really worked to have a solution that was driven by consumers or the community. And I just have a comment to make about the first question as well, about scaling up. And I think, what everybody else has said is really important about communication channels, dissemination networks. But similarly to the community, it's also important, I think, to involve other people right from the start, wherever you can. So the people that have got capacity for scaling up. So, for example, in local government projects, involving state government people, even as observers to the project right from early on, is as important as involving the community.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who has joined us today, all of our panelists for doing such an incredible job of staying on time, and to our audience. I hope this has been very useful. And if you would like to find out which of these incredible projects actually wins the award, then I will see you at the conference in Hobart in the first week of October. Thank you very much, everyone.